The Chad Doerman case out of Ohio is an incredibly sad, tragic, horrible, horrible case. But a lot of people are wondering that if what we know is true, that there's already been a full confession on the part of Mr. Doerman, then is it necessary for us to go through all of the procedural steps of going to trial, having a sentencing? Why can't we just speed that process up and have it happen right now? So that's what we're discussing on this week's video. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you're having a great week. And like I said in the intro, this week we're talking about the Chad Doerman case out of Ohio. If any of you are not familiar with that case, please feel free to look it up, but do so at your own discretion because the facts are incredibly disturbing. It's a really horrific case out of Ohio. And the purpose of this video is not really to comment on that case specifically, but really the thought process that always comes up in cases like these, where when there is a case where the defendant's guilt is essentially a foregone conclusion in a case where whether there's video evidence or a confession or something like that, then why is it necessary to go through all of the procedural steps that we would go through on a case where somebody's guilt is controverted or it's in controversy? And it goes along the same lines of the question that I get a lot, which is, well, how do you defend somebody who you know is guilty? Okay. And the way I answer these two questions is really what you have to look at it like and how you have to approach a situation like that at times is you're not only defending the person, you're defending the system. And so what I mean by that is we live in America, and in America we have a very specific criminal justice system, and it has its flaws, but in my opinion, it's the best criminal justice system that exists anywhere in the world. That's just my opinion. And it's why I've devoted my life and my career to helping promote and make sure that that system is fair, reasonable, and works. Well, the only way that system works the way that it should is it in every single case with every single defendant, regardless of the facts, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the presumed guilt or innocence of that person, the system has to operate in the same exact manner. Once you have a system that works differently for somebody who the state assumes is just definitely guilty versus somebody who there might be a question, then the system breaks down because it allows bias and prejudice to enter into that system. If anybody out there has ever played sports, you've probably heard a coach tell you before, how you practice is how you play. Well, it kind of has the same type of thinking here. In these cases where it's almost a foregone conclusion of the guilt of the person, you still have to make sure you do every little thing right. You have to make sure that that individual's constitutional rights are protected, zealously defended, rigorously adhered to. Because by doing that, you're training the system, you're training the prosecutors, you're training the judges, you're training the citizens that this is how this system works, and this is how these constitutional provisions are upheld and protected. Therefore, when there is a case where it isn't as clear cut, where there is a reasonable doubt, where there is a question, they apply those same rigorously tested standards that they've been doing from day one. Once you start taking shortcuts, once you start allowing a prosecutor to get away with something or a judge to make a bad decision, just because you assume, well, the person's guilty anyway, so let's just let this happen. Again, that lets bias into the system. So in cases like these, even when you have a full confession, even when you have somebody that's not contesting the guilt to their charges, it's still of vital importance to make sure that their constitutional rights are protected and that you allow the system to work the way that it's designed to work. Because again, if the system works the way it's supposed to, and the defense lawyer does their job and zealously advocates for their client, and the prosecutor does their job and zealously advocates for the state of Ohio in this instance, and the judge does his job or her job and fairly calls balls and strikes and fairly rules on objections, then the system will work, the person will get found guilty, and there will be no reason for that conviction or sentence to be overturned on appeal because the system gave that individual A completely fair and impartial trial and a jury of their peers decided what punishment or what conviction is appropriate. So I caution this every time I see a case like this comes up. Please don't subscribe to that thought process of, well, he's already admitted guilt. Just go ahead and throw him under the jail and be done with it. We don't have to put the state through this big, expensive trial process. No, these are the cases where it's the most important, because these are the cases where the system truly gets tested and truly gets refined to make sure that it's operating in the most fair and impartial way. As always, if there's ever anything like this you want to discuss or have a question or a topic that you'd like to see me cover on a video like this, please feel free to reach out and let me know either via a telephone call or an email. Always happy to get your comments. I've gotten a bunch so far. I always try to answer them as quick as I can, but keep reaching out, keep hitting me with those questions. I love them, and I will answer them any chance that I get. Hope you all have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week.